Christmas bells ring, ring, swinging my shopping bag, singing.
Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to be trying on some new Tom Ford products as well as some ones that were released this year and some favourites as well. I've already put on the primer and I did use the Tom Ford one. It's the Traceless Soft Matte Primer. I love this. If you have combination to oily skin, it is a fantastic primer. So I put it on about a couple of minutes ago and now my skin feels really smooth. It is, well, it's not even really a soft matte, but it acts like a soft matte and helps prevent those oils to come through. And those of you that have watched my other videos know that I also love the new Hourglass primer that was released earlier this year as well. So I suppose with the Tom Ford one, it is slightly more mattifying than the Hourglass one, but I just find this really good with my oily skin, especially this time of the year. We're now in summer here in New Zealand and the weather is definitely a lot warmer and a little bit more humidity as well, and this just works really, really well. So before I put on my foundation, the new Tom Ford products that I got, I picked up a shade in Illuminate. It's the Duo Contour, and I got this in Intensity 2, and I have tried that out. I don't really use contour a lot. I have 2 or 3 different ones, and it is a really lovely contour. It just blends really beautifully. I also picked up for the first time, I haven't tried these before from Tom Ford, it's the shade in Illuminate Highlighting Duos, and I picked up the ones Peachlight and Moodlight. So I have a couple of Tom Ford foundations and I really like them both. This one is the shade in Illuminate and this one is the Traceless, the Soft Matte Foundation. This one, the shade in Illuminate, this has more coverage than the Soft Matte. And I do enjoy the Soft Matte, but out of the two, I probably prefer this one. Only because I think it just gives a little bit more of a perfected finish. In saying that though, this one is a lot more pricier than this foundation. And this one does give a lovely finish as well. It's just that I think that this one just gives that little bit more of a perfected finish. So the shade that I have in the shade in Illuminate, this is the one that I'm going to put on today. It is 5.6. Ivory Beige, and I'm going to put it on today using a beauty blender. It goes on beautifully with a beauty blender or a foundation brush. It really just depends which you prefer. I do prefer putting on foundations with a beauty blender or beauty sponge when it comes to the warmer weather, and especially one that has a little bit more full coverage like this foundation. I just find it shears it out really, really beautifully. So I don't have a Tom Ford eyebrow product, so I'm going to use the Chanel one. This is the one that I use nearly every day, and this is in the shade Bronze. For everything that I'm putting on my face today, I will have listed and linked in the description box below. So I'm not really sure where I was up to. I was putting some concealer under my eyes, the Tom Ford shade in Illuminate one, but there was a knock on the door and it was a police officer, one of the neighbours that lives nearby. Their house was burgled yesterday and they weren't completely successful. The owner came home and disturbed them, but some items were missing. So he just wanted to know if I'd noticed anything suspicious or out of the ordinary, but I had gone out yesterday, so I wasn't here around the time of the burglary. It looks really lovely. Probably needs a little bit more concealer. So now this is where I've got to be careful with this concealer. So I'm just going to put in another tiny amount, and I'll just use my fingers again to spread it out. I do find, since this concealer is a bit more thicker, and I do it with most of my concealers anyway, or nearly all of them, is I do use my finger to tap out the product. It just helps with the warmth of your finger just to spread it out just that little bit more evenly. So I will powder under my eyes in a minute, but I just let the concealer sit there for a couple of minutes if I just want a bit of extra coverage over my face. I do think it is a fantastic concealer for that. because it gives quite good coverage. So I do have a sunspot here. The redness is pretty much covered with that foundation, but I'll just put a tiny bit of concealer here. I do have a sunspot just here, and also one, it's just faint just up here. I've been using one of those LED masks for the last 3 months. It was gifted to me, and I will do a video on that soon and probably incorporate it with my morning skincare routine to show you what I use. And I have noticed an improvement. It's a slight improvement, but the sunspots that I have definitely lightened. I don't think they'll completely disappear using that LED mask. I think if I wanted them to, I would need to get laser done. But I'm being really impressed about how they have lightened up quite a bit. So I'm just going to take the Sonia G. This is the soft concealer brush, and just slightly just tap in that concealer, and it does give really, really beautiful coverage. So even though the Chanel Sublimage one is my favorite, the other concealers that I have in my collection, I think I have about 7 or 8 of them. They aren't wasted because there are 2 or 3 that I also use for under my eyes as well, although I do tend to use the Sublimage one the most. But the other ones I just use like this on my face, so I can get through the product without having to throw them away. So that concealer on my face has just covered those sunspots really beautifully, and it is a lovely concealer. I just tend to use it more for my face now instead of under my eyes, and that's only because of that Chanel Sublimage one. So now let's have a look at the new Tom Ford, the shade Illuminate. This is the Contour Duo, and I picked up Intensity 2. I hadn't tried these before from Tom Ford, so I don't have the old shades to show you for comparison. And the packaging of these has the Tom Ford logo on the front, and here is shade Intensity 2. And as you can see, this isn't in pristine condition because I have been trialing it out. Now, I do love the formula of the contour. I think it's really, really lovely. This one here, I'm sort of not too sure about and really what it does, but I will put it on today so you can see what it looks like. The consistency of this blends really well. I really like the Charlotte Tilbury, the contour wand that she has. I think that blends out beautifully as well. And this sort of reminds me of that. This is a different formula than what the Charlotte Tilbury has, but how easily it blends, the two are quite similar. So I'm going to take the Sonia G, this is the mini base brush, and go into the contour. I don't wear contour a lot, and with contour you can do it so it's really subtle. This is quite a deep shade, as a contour should be. So initially I'm just going to tap quite lightly, and I'm really only just going to put a little bit just through here. I can always add a little bit more if I want to. I tend to put contour on using one of these Sonia G brushes, or the Beauty Blender would work really well. So you can just go really light just to get a subtle contour there. You can certainly go deeper if you want to, because I know there are some creators out there who say that unless you're doing a photo shoot or something like that, really you should stay away from contour. I would probably agree if you're going to go too strong with it, but if you go really subtle, then there's no reason why you can't wear it for everyday makeup. If you want a little bit more, it just gives a little bit more definition to the face. I'll probably put a little bit more on the side and build it up. But I'm just showing you that even though it can look a little bit scary looking at the colour in the pan, if you go easy with it to begin with, you can just build it up to how you want it. So I'm just going to add a little bit more on the side. But I think it blends out really, really beautifully. It's not patchy in any way. And then I'm just going to take a little bit more and I'll just go around this area here and just pop a little bit more here as well. Then I'm going to take the Sonia G, this is the Jumbo Base, and I'm going to go into the lighter shade here. I just don't really think that this does that much. The consistency of this, it's not sticky, but I do need to powder it down. So how I've been using it, I just tap it over the rest of my cheek and it sort of blends in with the contour shade really beautifully. But it really doesn't, I don't think it really adds much. I suppose if you wanted just a subtle highlight, you wanted that contour and then go for a highlight up the top, and that's all. I think it looks really lovely, but I just don't think you get much from the top shade. So I'm just going to go over the other cheek as well. So I'm going to use the BK Beauty, this is the 105, and this is the Chanel, the loose powder. It's the Natural Finish loose powder. And just put the brush in there and just take up the product that's in there. I've only got a little bit of product and just pop that on. I find this powder really good. I only bought this about a year ago and I think I've used more than half of it already. So now I'm going to put a bit of warmth into my face, and I've got the Tom Ford, this is the Glow Bronzer, and this is the one Terra. So this is quite a warm bronzer, and I'm just going to take that over my cheeks and just give a little bit of warmth. For eyeshadow today, I'm going to use one of the Tom Ford releases from this year, and I've reached for the one Rose Topaz. I think this is a really lovely colour story. I do tend to reach for this quite a bit just because it's just a really beautiful everyday look. I did a review on this earlier in the year, and I've also done reviews on his most recent releases. That was, I think there was the Velours Khaki and also the Violet Sateen. Both of those are really beautiful as well. But I just thought for today, this quad would be really, really pretty. So since I've already done a review on this eyeshadow quad, I'm not going to talk while I'm putting this on. When I'm editing it, I'll put some music to it.
The river flows one direction, and fishes, they follow the flow. But what if one tried to mention that there was much more to explore? Here I am, I have a plan, I'm living free, don't know where I'll land. Here I am, I have a plan, I'm living free, don't know where I'll land. A dragonfly heard the message. Darkness was home for the star. It spread its wings to the surface. The bright colors set them apart. Here I am, I have a plan, I'm living free, don't know where I'll land.
So now let's take a look at the shade in Illuminate. These are the highlighting duos. This is the first time that I've tried these. There are a lot of people that really love them, and I just think they look beautiful. So I got the shades, I got Moodlight, and I also got Peachlight. So first of all, I will show you Moodlight. Again, it has the Tom Ford logo on the front of the packaging here. So this is Moodlight. And this one is Peachlight. So I'll swatch both of these on my arm so you can take a look. So first of all, I'm going to swatch Moodlight. It's the top shade and there is the bottom shade. And then we have Peachlight, that's the top shade, and that is the bottom shade. And I've just turned my light off so you might be able to see them a little bit easier. On my left cheek I'm going to put on Moodlight, and on my right cheek I'm going to put on Peachlight. So I'm going to take my Tukuhoto brush, this is the F03, and I'm just going to go into the deeper shade here. I'm going to use these as blushes today, so I'm not going to use a separate blush. So just going into the deeper shade first and just sweep that all over my cheek. It is fairly subtle, but I think if you had a lighter skin tone than me, then this could certainly work as a blush. I mean, I could wear this as a blush as well. It's just that it's very, very subtle. But I do love the radiance that it gives. I think it looks really, really beautiful. So I'm just going to sweep into that bottom shade again. I do love the glow that it gives. I think it is really, really beautiful. So now I'm going to go into the lighter shade. I'm just going to use a Sonia G brush. This is from a set she released earlier this year. It was a limited edition set. So we'll just try that. I'm just going to put it over just the high points, and that is beautiful. I'm really glowing with both of them on. But I think they're still quite subtle. They give a really beautiful highlight, but there doesn't seem to be anything, there's nothing chunky about them or glittery or anything like that. I think it does give a really, really beautiful highlight. And they also blend really beautifully as well. And they don't seem to emphasize the texture that I have on my skin. I think it looks really, really beautiful. So I've just wiped down the Tukuhoto brush, and now we'll go into Peachlight. So again, I'll just go into the darker shade first. So this shade for me could definitely be used as a blush just on its own. I'm just sweeping into that shade again. That is really, really pretty. Just a really gorgeous, gorgeous subtle glow. I think these would be beautiful over the top of blushes as well. But on their own, I do think they're really beautiful. As I said, I hadn't tried these before from Tom Ford, and I can see why people rave about them. Liz from Chicago Law Luxury Makeup absolutely loves them, and I can see why. Just really, really beautiful. So I'm going to use the same brush for the top shade here. I'm just going to wipe it down on my microfiber cloth in front of me, and I'm just going to sweep through there, and again just pop it on my cheekbone. So again, you just get this really, really beautiful glow. It's nothing over the top. I don't think it's a really wet look. Possibly you could, using a more denser brush or even using your finger perhaps, but I really just like it like this. I do like highlighters, but I like them on the more subtle side. I think it's really, really beautiful. And out of the two, I don't really have a favourite. This is one that I could use instead of a blush if I just wanted something very soft. But I like both of the colour stories. I think both are really beautiful, and both would go really lovely over the top of a blush as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just take my finger, go into this top shade, and just see what that does. So just go over the top. So you definitely get more, and there you get more of, it's more of that wet look, and you do really get that it's a real bling. And for me, I mean, it's good that it does that because there are a lot of people that love a highlight that does that. So I love it that you can get a subtle look, and then just by using my finger, you get much more payoff as well. I wouldn't wear the highlight like this. For me, I just feel for me that it's a little bit too much. But either way, it goes on really beautifully. And even just putting this on with my finger, you can actually blend it out a bit. And the formula is just gorgeous. So I'll even up the sides and I'll go back into Moodlight up to this top shade here. And I'll just put that on using my finger as well. So you can definitely see a difference using my finger. But I just want to make both sides match a little bit better. And finally for blush today, it's a Tom Ford one, and this is in the shade Blush Nude. I use this lipstick quite a lot. I think it is just a gorgeous, gorgeous shade. So here is the final look, and overall I think it is really, really pretty. So I'll start off first with the contour duo. I think the formula of this is really, really beautiful. As I was saying, I don't really see much what this top shade does because I have to powder it down over the top. You could still slightly see the glow that it gave. There's nothing wrong with the formula. I think it's really, really beautiful. And if you are into contours, then this formula is just gorgeous. You go a lot deeper than I did with it today. But even if you go in it with it really being subtle, I think it is really beautiful. It blends just absolutely beautifully. It's a buttery and creamy formula and really, really easy to apply. And this shade here, I did think that this looked really lovely as well, and both together I think it gives a really beautiful glow. It's just that because I powder my face down with my oily skin, I do feel that any of that sort of ethereal glow that it gives gets a bit lost. But I suppose I could also put it on top of the powder as well and see how that went. But really, out of these two, this is the shade that I would use the most for contouring. I think it is a really gorgeous formula. The eyeshadow is lovely. It was released, I think it was more towards the start of this year. It is just absolutely beautiful. So I'm just trying to find it in front of me here. The Rose Topaz is just gorgeous. The formula of this is beautiful, just like the other two quads that were released the same time as this one, and then the most recent Tom Ford quads as well. Really, really gorgeous formula, blend beautifully. But probably new favorites for me today are now these highlight duos. I think these are gorgeous. This one, Moodlight, and this one, Peachlight, both are just absolutely beautiful, and I love it that you can apply them and initially you get this really subtle, gorgeous glow, and then when I use my finger you definitely get more of a highlight, a bit more of a wet look. But even with it going towards more of that wet look and more than I would normally wear, it doesn't seem, or it doesn't appear to emphasize the texture anymore on my skin. Really, really gorgeous formula, and I love the color stories. This one, Peachlight, definitely wear on its own with my skin tone. You get a more softer look, but I just think both would go beautifully over blushes as well. I'm going to be reaching for these a lot. I just think they are absolutely stunning. The lipstick in Blush Nude is just beautiful. If you love a really gorgeous pink lipstick, then I think the shade from Tom Ford is just absolutely stunning. And the foundation that I used today, the shade in Illuminate, I've used this many, many times since I got it. I think it gives a really perfected look to my skin. I think it's super flattering on mature skin, and it's great that it goes with all skin types, whether you're dry or whether, like me, you've got oily skin as well. Since I have oily skin, I definitely do need to powder it down like I do with all my foundations, but I find that I could even wear this one even in the middle of summer. It's just really, really beautiful. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you next time. Bye.